Give me a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum, good evening. This is Ishan Isaac with Ishan on air. We are live with the social media, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and also Instagram Live. So we are live all over the world. I welcome all of you. And every Sunday, 6 p.m. and onward, we discussed current affairs, news, and politics with analysis. And based on facts, based on actual news, and sometimes also my political commentary as well. You have every right to agree or disagree or whatever your thought process is because opinion matters. And not only that, but also difference of opinion, they also matter a lot because not everyone actually has the same thinking process, same mindset. So I value your opinion. In this today's show, we're going to be discussing some very major changes happening in the U.S. landscape, especially in our country, in my country, in your country, and all those who are watching me live. I welcome you all, and those who are listening to me, thank you for tuning in. So the first information starts with this particular issue that has come up with regards to the former director of FBI, James Comey. He's been indicted for second time by Justice Department, as reported by the Washington Post. Keep in mind, the younger Comey, who is the daughter of Mr. James Comey, she is suing the government over her firing, saying there was no reason to push her out of the job other than the president's animosity toward her father or how officials perceived her political beliefs. So this is interesting in terms of what's happening with the Comeys. And then in a separate case, the Justice Department in September indicted Comey, her father, in Eastern District of Virginia on 2 counts alleging that he lied to Congress. The Virginia grand jury rejected the third counts sought by government prosecutors involving another alleged false statement. Now, what is happening with regards to Comey? Let me tell you this. So he wrote this particular thing with the seashells or shells on the beach on his walk a few months ago with regards to 8647. What does that mean? The seashells numbers behind Comey's indictment. So that was explained, and we'll take a moment to basically discuss that. It started with this whole issue when the picture showing the numbers 8647 written in seashells on the beach with the caption, quote, "Pool shell formation on my beach walk," unquote. Comey was allowed to leave the court when he was indicted without conditions for his release. His attorney said, "I don't see why they would be necessary at this time," unquote. Prosecutors in the indictment say the post constitutes a threat that any, quote, "reasonable recipient who is familiar with the circumstances would interpret as a serious expression of an intent to do harm to the President of the United States," unquote. Well, that's a very serious allegation. What is 8647? So I will talk about that too, because a lot of people don't even know what that means. And I also didn't know exactly what that meant and what it means. So even ABC News, Trump says James Comey Instagram post represents, quote, "tremendous danger," unquote. And others have used the 86 nomenclature, this nomenclature or the language, as you can tell, in terms of what this nomenclature is about 86, including a Democratic Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who appeared during a 2020 television interview with a small figurine of the numbers, quote, 8645, unquote, on the table behind her, and conservative commentator Jack Posobiec, who posted a tweet with, quote, 8646 during Joe Biden's presidency. The 8647 connection to Trump, this is where this beach house in North Carolina last year, that's where when he was on his beach walk, Comey shared this photo on his Instagram account, described as a cool shell formation on the sand that formed the numbers 8647. Comey deleted the photo shortly after it was made, writing, and then he wrote, quote, "I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence," unquote, and, quote, "I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down," unquote. Now, if you look at the Merriam dictionary on this particular term, it suggests that the term came from the restaurant and bar industry, and that was back in the 1930s, they say. And it says, quote, to eject or ban, unquote, also dismiss or remove, unquote, or to, quote, reject, discontinue, or get rid of, unquote, something. So political foes under acting Attorney General Todd, because Pam Bondi is out, and now the acting Attorney General is there now, Todd Blank, and who is heading up the Justice Department following Trump's ouster of Pam Bondi. Quote, nothing has changed with me, unquote. That's what Comey posted, and echoing what he said after the previous indictment was thrown out last year. Quote, I'm still innocent, I'm still not afraid, and I still believe in the independent federal judiciary, so let's go, unquote. And then he further said, quote, but it's really important that all of us remember that this is not who we are as a country. This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be. And the good news is we get closer every day to restoring those values, unquote. He added, quote, keep the faith, unquote. So that's what he's fighting for. According to him, he's fighting for everyone. And I hope that he is actually focused on nonviolence, but the allegations are that he was actually not doing that, based on this whole idea about the nomenclature and the understanding of many people of this particular term. Politico has reported this Voting Rights Act is now, quote, a dead letter after lasting Supreme Court decision. So this is where even the NAACP General Counsel, Kristen Clark, said, quote, very little remains. And she further said, quote, there's some small protection with respect to language across an important prohibition on voter intimidation, but very little remains. And she further said, quote, this is a dark day in our democracy, unquote. So this is where gerrymandering and some of the redistricting, even in very specific Black and African American communities, and now this has dramatically weakened, as reported in many news outlets. And this decision, 6-3 decision in Louisiana versus Calais. So that's where people are talking about racial protections in the law were so dramatically weakened as to render them effectively useless, the liberal minority on the court and prominent legal scholars argue. Now, what has happened here? So a lot of people are still criticizing President Biden, and rightly so. He could have increased the number of judges, in the Supreme Court to 15, and he could have appointed even more judges, more balanced court, where you have more. Right now, there are more conservative judges as compared to progressive or liberal judges. So there are 6 conservative judges appointed by conservative or Republican presidents, and there are only 3 appointed now by the Democrats presidents. So that is why the tilt is very much toward the conservative judges, because they are in majority at the Supreme Court. So the Voting Rights Act and all those who are obviously opposing this decision of the Supreme Court, they should go ask perhaps President Biden and perhaps the Biden administration. They had 4 years. They could have literally increased or packed the court. Right now, the total number of judges are 9. They could have increased to 15 and could have done that. But coulda, shoulda, woulda. I mean, that's where we are. So I am sorry to report that the Voting Rights Act are not as solid as they were. Obviously, some will argue, no, they are, but it remains to be seen in the next upcoming election cycle with all these redrawing of districts. King Charles was here. This is the second British monarch to address Congress. And let me tell you that the previous one was 35 years ago, right after the end of the Persian Gulf War. There was Queen Elizabeth in 1991. And King Charles basically was received well by the Congress. And he also emphasized, quote, America's words carry weight and meaning, unquote. And he also talked about the importance of NATO, and he said that NATO came to the assistance of the United States in the aftermath of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, and said the same, quote, unyielding resolve, unquote, should be extended to Ukraine and be able to secure a truly just and lasting peace. And when you talked about Ukraine, Vice President J.D. Vance, who was seated behind the king, stood up and applauded in response to the call to support Ukraine. Now, the King Charles also talked about, he said that a lot in terms of the 250th anniversary of American independence, because it's coming up in July. And he talked about European alliances at a time of, quote, great uncertainty, unquote. And he said, quote, I pray with all my heart that our alliance will continue to defend our shared values with our partners in Europe and the Commonwealth and across the world, and that we ignore the clarion calls to become ever more inward looking, unquote, the king told the room. And he also talked about, quote, I serve with immense pride in the Royal Navy, following in the naval footsteps of my father, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, my grandfather, King George VI, my great uncle, Lord Mountbatten. A lot of people from South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they would remember the last Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten. He was the great uncle of the King Charles. People forget the history. And my great grandfather, King George V, he said. So this is obviously one of the very strong alliance across the Atlantic with the British. And I can certainly say that the United States of America has been in this alliance for so many years. And then King also said that, let me say, with unshakable resolve, such acts of violence will never succeed, the king said. What are differences? What are disagreements? Differences? Obviously, we stand united in our commitment to uphold the democracy, to protect from harm, and to salute the courage of those who daily risk their life in the service of our countries, unquote. So that's, he said, and that's where First Lady and President Trump, and then King Charles and Queen Camilla, or her name was another title, but they're calling her this name. So interesting developments. And then this King's visit, there was ample security at the Capitol complex. Law enforcement officer was seen on the rooftop of the Capitol building and patrolling the surrounding areas ahead of his arrival. When he was speaking, in the room in Congress, he basically was there, King Charles, but President Trump, for security reasons, was not in the room, but Vice President. So some interesting aspects of how strong the U.S. system is. I'm pretty sure that President Trump wanted to be there. Who knows? But because of the security protocols, he was not there. Although Charles did not mention the Epstein scandal in his remarks, he did say that both countries need to, quote, support victims of some of the ills that so tragically exist in both of our societies today. So this was Ben Weider in the Washington contributed to this report. Fed closes Powell era with the rates on hold and divide over what comes next. So his term ends on May 15th. However, Powell to remain at the Fed because of the term as a governor and the voting that happened recently within the Federal Reserve System and the board and various committees. So his term will end until 2028. For decades, Fed chairs have left the building when their successor is installed. However, in this particular case, Kevin Warsh will become the chair for a yet to be determined interval. And Powell said that the legal fight had left him, quote, no choice, unquote, but to stay until the threats were fully and transparently resolved. He said that he intended to keep, quote, a low profile, unquote, as a governor, and had no desire to interfere with Warsh's leadership of the committee, because Kevin Warsh will become the chair of the committee. He will still be the board member of the same committee, FOMC. So interesting developments, and we'll keep an eye on this news story as well. House votes to end DHS shutdown as threats of airport chaos loom. So that is another interesting situation with regards to this particular scenario, and that this was the longest partial shutdown in U.S. history. So that is now nearing an end, as the House on Thursday passed funding for most of the Homeland Security Department. That's certainly good news, and especially for those long lines and queues that we've seen at many airports, including IAH and many others in the nation. Trump poised to defy Congress on War Authorization Act. So that 60-day deadline ended on Friday. However, Defense Secretary or War Secretary, whatever you want to call him, tells lawmakers that U.S.-Iran ceasefire stopped the clock on the war authorization deadline. Many are arguing no, it has not, and some are saying yes, it has. So this fight will continue. Quote, we are in a ceasefire right now, which our understanding means the 60-day clock pause or stops in a ceasefire, unquote. Hegseth said that's it's our understanding, unquote. That's what Pete Hegseth said. Under the law, the 60-day period can be extended for 30 days if the president certifies to Congress in writing that the continued use of force is needed to safely withdraw U.S. troops. Remember, 30,000 forces will remain in Germany, but many have been called back because of the insurgency, or I shouldn't say insurgency, but because of this war with Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine war, but also there were more troops that were sent to Germany. So those have been called back, and there are some more from Spain that are being called back, as it has been reported. CBS News has reported Trump tells Congress hostilities with Iran have terminated as conflict hit 60-day deadline. So there's more on this news, and this is that 1973 law called the War Powers Resolution. The president is required to notify Congress within 48 hours of military action and withdraw U.S. troops 60 days later. In this particular case, that's where this whole ceasefire argument is being made. So with that, I'm going to talk about our key advertisers, and especially the main ones, and all of them starting from Affordable Insurance of Texas. If you're looking for auto insurance, commercial insurance, business insurance, or homeowners insurance, you can bundle your insurance, homeowners insurance, and auto insurance. Call 737-854-4000, 713-785-4000, or visit their website, www.aitinsurance.com. Mention my name, Zishan, on air, and contact Affordable Insurance of Texas. And then Roop Saudi Palace, thousands of square footage. They have huge collection for men, women, for brides, grooms, and children, and for children of all age groups. You can also schedule a virtual video tour, 832-267-0065. That's the number to call, 832-267-0065, to schedule a virtual video tour, or call or visit their website, roopsaudi.com. They're at Hillcroft, 1,000 square footage, and they have a men's showroom, Roop Saudi Palace. And Shanghai, Texas, they have this buffet. For 713-953-1388 is the number where you can call, and this buffet is for 30 plus items, vegetarian $12.99, non-veg $14.99, takeout buffet $7.99 per pound. And they also have catering specials. You can mention my name, that Zishan has sent you, Zishan on air, ShanghaiTexas.com for other deals, as well as for catering. Call Mr. Shahid Ali, 73953-1388, or on the web, ShanghaiTexas.com. With that, I'm signing off, and we'll continue with our next program here, Big Baller Sports. Thank you.